Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sigmar wills it as the Empire faces off against the Wood Elves. We have Raptor playing as the Empire, and we have Killerino is going to be commanding the Wood Elf forces today. So for the Empire's troops, we do have Volkmar the Grim up on his chariot. He has all of his lovely abilities, and he's going to be protected by a Light Wizard who is going to be having Foz protection and Net of Amnitok. For the infantry department, we just have some spearmen with shields. We have 4 of those, and we have 2 Free Company militia. Otherwise, it is going to be a very heavy mobility force by the Empire today, as we have Pistoliers, a couple of those, and then we have some Outriders with grenade launchers on top of that, which do well against the low armored infantry of the Wood Elves. We also have Empire Knights and Reiksguard on the far right flank. And then as we swing on over to the left, we have the Zintler's Reiksguard. The ROR unit don't usually see them. Reiksguard themselves are rather uncommon pick, but they do have immune to psychology. And then we have 2 Empire Knights on the far left flank. And that is pretty much going to be it for the Empire. Lots of mobility, and the Volkmar the Grim with his unbreakable chariot going to be holding down that infantry department. But for the Wood Elves, we do have triple Way Watchers vanguarded up front, and they will be supported by a Glade Lord who does have her Arrows of Kurnus and the Prey of Anathrema. So even against Volkmar, these 3 Way Watchers are going to be quite a threat for Volkmar, especially if he gets preyed down with Anathrema, because it does lower the missile resistance as well. We also have some Wild Riders with shields on the left flank, and they will be supported with a Sisters of Thorn. So she'll have the couple abilities, bringing Shield of Thorns and the Curse of on her hair. Those are some bound abilities there. Otherwise, the infantry is going to be Eternal Guards with shields, just a few units of those. So all the funds is pretty much in the Way Watchers and these Wild Riders, who do have some War Dancers going to be sitting in the forest right now, waiting to spring their trap. Though they don't really have a whole lot of good targets right now, because this is just the War Dancers. It's not the Azrai Spears. So they don't have the bonus versus large or anything like that. They are good for versus infantry, though there's not a whole lot of infantry for the Empire. And we do have a Spellslinger Beast bringing the wild form and the transformation of Kadan. And we also have a Waystalker as well with some more Arrows of Kurnus. But there are no, mortars or anything like that. But that is the army, so let's get things off, as one of the Pistoliers has already been absolutely destroyed. And Prey of Anathrema does go down on one of the Empire Knights. And so far, though, these Outriders, though, doing a lot of good work, though. This is a very nice charge by the Wild Riders, though these Pistoliers do get into the Way Watchers, and both of the Wild Riders are now dealing with these Reiksguard, and they're taking a lot of fire from these Outriders, and these Pistoliers are getting now a nice charge from the Empire Knights. However, the Way Watchers do get netted down, so the Way Watchers are taking a ton of early damage right now, and these Wild Riders are not exactly healthy either. So, I mean, this overcasted net now also getting some of these Eternal Guard, as these Waystalker, this ability just kind of bounces around as units are starting to die off. So that is not good for the Wood Elves right now. Is a very, very quick start by the Empire, doing very, very well so far, as all of this mass of cavalry is just overwhelming the defending Wood Elves right now, as they just cannot keep up right now. These Eternal Guard taking so much damage, and it looks like the Curse of Anraihair goes down, though, getting minus 24 melee attack. A very nice blob to cast that on. Could have probably been cast a little bit earlier on, potentially saving some things, as Shield of Thorns was also cast on the Way Watchers, though they are down to only 18 models, a ton of early damage. Though if you take a look into the far flank here, these shields were trying to, or these spearmen were trying to get onto him, but the War Dancers do kind of come out of the tree line, getting some nice little jump on the spearmen as the Viral Manticore does go down, and this center engagement needs all the help they can get, as pretty much these Outriders, the grenade launchers, are now pretty much free to engage in the back line. These Sisters of Thorns really need to rotate around and deal with these Outriders, because those Outriders are just going to make just absolutely decimate these Way Watchers, and that's a ton of damage going the way of the Wood Elves. But surprisingly, the bounce power is actually in their favor right now. Part of that is the Feral Manticore that is on the field, but also, I mean, these Reiksguard and Empire Knights just apparently just fell upon these Eternal Guard, and they just could not stop them. And the Nice little banishment, but it does go away from them. Another net of Amratok targeting these Wild Riders who were trying to chase off these Outriders, but now that will allow Volkmar the Grim, as he does have a Soulfire Bombardment also coming down right into the middle of things. They are a little spread out, but that's still doing some good damage, and it potentially could rout them. They are getting very low in health, 16, and Arrows of Kurnus arcing its way in towards these Free Company Militia, doing some damage, but not a whole lot. Probably better would have been targeted on some of the cav units to peel off some models there. But now these Pistoliers targeting that Glade Lord, and the Glade Lord is going after this Light Wizard, but that will pull out as the Empire Knights do charge in. And now the Feral Manticore should be disintegrating fairly soon. And there it goes. The Waystalker and Spellsinger still kicking right now as the War Dancers do get into some of the Free Company Militia. Balance power look pretty even right now. I think the War Dancers are going to have to kind of carry in this late game, as the Way Watchers, though they have all come back. So there is potential for them to do well, even though they do have very low model counts at this point. We still have 31, though, and 26, so that's decent, especially with what's left. The Wild Riders did get broken down very quickly, but the Eternal Guard doing very, very well, holding their own, and War Dancers probably chasing a little too far right now. They do need to assist this main engagement. They are very elite troops for the Wood Elves, and they are very desperately needed to hold this front line, because if these Eternal Guard do falter very, very soon, especially if Volkmar the Grim comes in and deals with this other unit right here, that is going to allow the mobility of the Empire to just sweep through this back line. And I think that these Outriders, they need to kind of get engaged with these War Dancers, not War Dancers, with the Way Watchers, because all this fire is just absolutely destroying what's left of the Empire mobility. The Empire just stayed too long in that main engagement. They still have quite a few Spearmen, but the Eternal Guard would be able to beat the Empire Spearmen, though Volkmar the Grim is at full health right now, and that is a problem for the Wood Elves, because the Wood Elves, their Way Watchers are really the only thing at this point that can deal with it. Luckily, they do get the Light Wizard off the field, and I mean, you do have a Waystalker and a Glade Lord who might be able to do some damage to Volkmar, but the biggest counter to Volkmar is the Way Watchers at this point. And if you kind of take a look back, you see all of the mobility, though, is off the field. Pretty much you have some Pistoliers left, some Free Company Militia, but that is pretty much it. And banishment does go down in the middle of these Way Watchers, trying to get them off the field, and these War Dancers cleaning up these Free Company Militia here. Though it looks like both of these Eternal Guards are starting to rout right now, and now Volkmar is turning his attention to these War Dancers. And a very nice Soulfire Bombardment going down, doing a ton of damage, and Volkmar still sitting pretty for his health and not taking any damage whatsoever. Waystalker using the last of his ammo. Glade Lord just running around at this point, and it is going to be kind of hard for the Wood Elves to come back into this fight, as the Empire is sitting very comfortable right now in the balance of power. Outriders chasing off one of the Way Watchers, and the rest of the Way Watchers are being chased off by these Spearmen, and they are wisely conserving their ammo at this point, because, I mean, they just need something that can peel off these Spearmen to allow them to fire into Volkmar. I think the Glade Lord needs to try and come and save, or just try and pull off these Spearmen here. Otherwise, I mean, these War Dancers are just getting absolutely destroyed by Volkmar. They just cannot do any damage to him, and they do end up routing here as these Pistoliers do survive. It is the last mobility for the most part. We still have there's a routing Outriders in the far reaches of the map, but things not looking so great for the Wood Elves right now. It is pretty much just down to Volkmar, though, as these Pistoliers, I mean, just a single volley from the Way Watchers will rout these guys off. The Glade Lord is just pretty much circling around, trying to, salvage the situation, but not a whole lot left, as there is a volley going off from the Way Watchers, as they are pretty much chased back into the corner of the map here. If they are looking to peel off these Pistoliers, though, and they should be able to do that with just one volley. I'm surprised, actually, these Pistoliers are still in it right now, though the Eternal Guard trying to catch these Spearmen, though they do get rear-charged by the Pistoliers, and those Way Watchers are in a very tough place right now. But here comes the Glade Lord, might be able to save the situation, though I am not so sure if the Wood Elves can come back, as they are getting closer and closer to army losses right now, though they still have their 3 heroes for now. The Spellsinger is being chased by Volkmar and is really terrified right now, and will very likely be routing to the onslaught from Volkmar. Though if we take a look back into the other reaches, that the Eternal Guard being chased off, finally the Pistoliers shattered from the Glade Lord and the Way Watchers. But right now, the Glade Lord pretty much has to deal with the Spearman unit by herself. There is a very low group of Eternal Guard who might be able to help with this. So, I mean, at this point, the Way Watchers might be forced to waste some of their ammo just to peel off the Spearmen here. And there is a volley going off. And we're just going to see if they're able to conserve enough ammo, though, to deal with Volkmar. It is so close to army losses. Only 87, or I guess 100 models left. War Dancers do come back, and they are looking to try and regroup, and they do end up breaking these Spearmen. Luckily, this Empire State troops are kind of susceptible to routing, and so they should be chased off the map, and now the Wood Elves are going to be able to regroup their forces right now as the War Dancers and 3 very low groups of Eternal Guard. So we're going to see if these Way Watchers do have enough ammo to carry the day, as these troops are continuing just to push off these Spearmen to the edge of the map. The Volkmar should be able to tank things, and let's take a quick look at how much ammo we have left. We have 5 and 9. So it's potentially enough, because it's 24 and 15 models. That's it's going to be very hard, I think, for the Wood Elves to pull this back. Though I think I've only seen 1 or 2 Prey of Anathramas, so there may be a hope in that department if they're able to get the Prey off and then get a pretty much focus fire from these 2 Way Watchers. Might be enough to get Volkmar down, but they should be able to rout off these Spearmen, which I think should be priority for that Glade Lord and Waystalker to kind of ignore Volkmar until at least the spear support is gone. And here is that opening volley from the Way Watchers, and here is the Prey as well. So we'll see how much damage these Waystalkers are able to do. Arrow Kern is going in as well, and here comes another volley from the Way Watchers, and I mean, it's doing some damage, but it is not a whole lot. And I just don't think that is going to be enough to come back at this point, but we shall see. Glade Lord and Waystalker now are charging in, at least the Waystalker is, and pretty much the Spearmen aren't really going to be much use, if any, to Volkmar, with just 1 Soulfire Bombardment will probably rout them all off, and he does have Terror, so these Eternal Guard are not immune to that whatsoever, though the Waystalker is able to pull the Spearmen away from Volkmar, as now the Glade Lord is working on Volkmar himself, and there goes the Spear support, though also the Spearmen as well for the Empire go as well, and I'm sure the War Dancers will not last too long. Though they have done fairly good work against what's left of the Empire, as one of the units of Way Watchers is now out of ammo, and the other one has only a couple volleys left to try and deal with Volkmar. So now the Glade Lord is trying to cycle in and out of this engagement right here for as long as they can. Only another volley left from the Way Watchers, though Volkmar is getting low. He is unbreakable, and he should be able to pull this one out. A single Soulfire Bombardment will rout whatever is left, and there goes the War Dancers as they do shatter. Eternal Guard surprisingly good on morale right now, though they are kind of going down, and the Glade Lord is also very low, and the balance of power is back to even right now, as Volkmar has taken a ton of damage, and the Glade Lord cycling in and out of this engagement. The Way Watchers, though, out of ammunition, though Volkmar is just taking all this damage and is not dishing out any in return. And this cycle charging by the Glade Lord, able to pull this off in the late game. I would not have expected this at all. I am very surprised to see Volkmar being defeated in that late game. Very good comeback by the Wood Elves there. So Volkmar, unfortunately unable to close out this battle. I was very surprised to see that Way Watchers having just enough ammo left, and the leadership of the Wood Elves was able to sustain just long enough to allow that Glade Lord to cycle in and out of that engagement. Even though she isn't really the best of melee combatants, it was enough to get that damage into Volkmar and whittle him down with that Waystalker as well. I think, man, I'm trying to think of how Volkmar could have played that a little differently. He did get a little separated from his spear support, though I think it is Volkmar. It doesn't really matter if he is surrounded by infantry or not. But I think also earlier on in that match, the Empire seemed to have a dominant opening engagement where they pretty much peeled off all of the Way Watchers at once. but they just stayed in that engagement too long because they were engaged with the Eternal Guard, and the Eternal Guard are actually very good spearmen. They're much better than the Empire troops, and I think that was pretty much it. The Empire needed to pull back after the initial charge and then just pretty much clean up through the back line, because they cleaned off the Wild Riders as well very, very early on. So the mobility for the Wood Elves was pretty much decimated, and the Empire just lost that advantage that they had so early on. I think that was pretty much why the Empire was down to just Volkmar at the end. They should have been able to pull that off, but the very tenacious play by the Wood Elves was able to come back and, despite all odds, able to beat Volkmar with just slivers of ammunition left and a very good cycle charging by that Glade Lord in the end. But that is going to be all for today. I hope you did enjoy the video, and as always, have a good one.